Okay, this is a showcase of my Shockwave Totem build. I'm just going to start out with a map because that's fun. Here we've got an irradiated area with a breach. I'm not going to bother with Expedition, it just kind of takes long. I'm going to do this T15 corrupted map that has a lot of crit damage and crit bonus. Yeah, so it's pretty deadly for most builds. Still a little dangerous for mine, but I've got some stuff that will help keep me alive in the build that I'll explain later. By the way, I have a cold, so apologize for the, god-awful voice. Alright, so here we go. Most of this build revolves around... Oops. Recording's like killing my FPS. Most of my build revolves around... survivability is from Regen. Damage is all Shockwave Totem and Rage generation, so... Oh my gosh, man, I'm getting like serious lag from recording. Hopefully my computer's just getting up to speed here. I don't do rage generation or even bother with it unless it's like a boss, basically, or if I'm in a standstill area. And also you can do a weapon swap and shield charge if you need a little extra boost of speed. But mostly you just drop your totems and go. It's very simple playstyle. When you have this regen shrine, your regen's off the charts. I'm at 1100. You can see these guys just wailing on 1200 regen. I have my totems down. Dropping totems ups your regen. I don't have any block because I don't have any shield. Block would be amazing, and you could do, there are versions out there, most of the versions of this have block built into it, but you're just sacrificing literally half your DPS for block, and since I found a way to work around that, here's a rare, and you'll see how quickly it takes out the rares. Most of the builds that are based around block sacrifice half their DPS to do so. I just don't think it's worth it when you can build around regen to still have this very similar survivability. Because like you can see, I'm doing this is essentially a T16 map. I can do T18 maps, no problem. I just didn't have one. I still don't have my chaos resistance fully capped, but resistance capping is very important. And this build has all the resistance is capped and max resistance is up, because when you don't have other forms of mitigation like block, you just need to reduce the incoming damage as much as possible to kind of work together with that regen. So by reducing the damage from physical using armor and the damage from elemental using max resist, and then you just get recoup and or regen. Regen I kind of like better, but I'll take what I can get to kind of cover that gap. As far as DPS, the Shockwave Totems pretty much take care of themselves. They just are very, very strong. You just want to scale maximum levels for the Shockwave Totems. They don't... You could go crit, potentially, but I found that if you go crit, you have to invest in accuracy, and I just didn't want to deal with that because I don't know, it requires more spirit investment, it requires more gear investment, so it's kind of like if you're going to go crit, it's an even more expensive version of the build, gosh, my lag is horrible when I'm recording. It can be done. Oh, here's a breach. Cool. I'm probably going to die in this breach because I've got god-awful lag going. It's really good. But yeah, let's do it. So when I'm in this breach, I'll drop my Orb of Storms, which actually generates rage generation. You know, you wouldn't expect your totem build to be dropping Orb of Storms, but it actually is fantastic for fonts of rage, and as you can see, I have 30 rage now. And it gives me, not only does it give me rage, it gives me life regen. Okay, where is everyone? Oh, guys, I can't see anything, lag. You're killing me. Oh, here's a rare, I think. The beautiful thing about this build is the ascendancy is what's bringing all the damage. We're talking massive, massive, massive damage from armor break. It's all centered around not only just armor break, but oh man, I don't find anything good in that. But you go into negative values for armor break, and because you go into negative values for armor break, it's basically physical penetration at that point. It's the equivalent of physical penetration. And yeah, by doing that, you melt melt rares. Now, still, this is a totem. This is a build that relies on Regen, so you don't want to just... You can kind of get in there in the thick of it with enemies, but you're a totem build. Like, stay back. You don't have to be in there. Like, this game is deadly, and since we're not block, it's still better not to be right in the thick of everything. Alright, so here's the only rare that's still alive. I'm gonna just drop a bunch of totems, and like if you really just want to make sure you crush the rare, you can drop your Orb of Storms and let it accumulate the rage, but I'm not gonna do that, so we'll just go ahead and do that, and yeah, he's dead. Okay, so that's it for the map, the showcase. I'm recording, George. I'm making a YouTube video, buddy. Haha, slush. So here is the core of the items you need for the build. You've got hrymnors, him, or however you say that. This is actually giving you double damage, because what it does, it's strange phrasing, because you're not used to this. Skills you use yourself cause aftershocks, and I believe this is intended, but it makes the Shockwave Totem have an aftershock, so it gives it double the damage. You shoot, it goes bam, bam. If I take this off, it goes bam. You can see it's much slower. So this is giving it an aftershock, doubling your damage. Aftershocks do full damage. Okay, let's get out of that, because my gosh, the lag when I'm recording. Most gear pieces are literally just life, armor, and resistances. I foolishly opted for regeneration here, which is not a bad choice, but I wish I would have went chaos resistance. Here, your chest piece, again, life, armor, resistances, but the base is important. You can see here that the implicit is regenerates life. That's huge. Regenerating 2.5% life is like almost the equivalent of the amount you get from the entire tree. Rings, again, life resistances. Life and resistances, nothing else matters. Now, one other thing I forgot to point out is that my chest piece has flat regeneration, and one of my rings has flat regeneration. Flat regeneration actually is really nice. If you think about it, stop it, George. If you think about it, this is almost 1% regeneration when you have less than 3,000 life. I haven't done the math, but very cool, George. My son's sitting next to me showing me things. Where do we get our damage? How do we scale our damage? Well, there's a couple places on the tree here, or on our gear. The necklace is really important. It lets us have an extra totem. But not only does it let us have an extra totem, it's also very convenient for when you're getting your Font of Rage and Font of Blood, which I'll show in a second, through Orb of Storms, because you can shoot an Orb of Storms, and then instead of moving out of it and losing your font, you can shoot another one, and you can literally just continue to create a path if you're fighting in an area where you need to follow an enemy. And so you just keep building. And this is, again, a massive boost to damage. So if you look, I'm just going to show the damage for this, what it does. Here I'm at, oops, let it die. So as it builds, you can see my DPS just going up and up and up and up. And we'll let this go all the way up and compare before and after. So now that we're at 30, we have 8,254 when I walk out of it. 6,000. So it's like a quarter of your damage right there. Or 30%, like it is, 30% more. Okay, I forgot to say belt is also just life and resist. So it would be nice to get some charm slots in there too if you can, but I'm poor boy, so you know, just I don't have a lot of money. Gloves. The most important stat on gloves is the +2 to all melee skills. In fact, my gloves are pretty terrible at the moment. If you were to have ideal gloves, you would have +2 melee skills, life, attack speed, because global attack speed affects the totems. Local attack speed on weapons does not. The only stat on weapons that matters at all is plus to level and stun buildup. Nothing else will apply to your totems because the totem uses its own weapon. Anyways, back to gloves. So life, attack speed, melee skills, and resists. That would be the ideal gloves with high armor. My gloves are pretty bad right now. Someday I'll get better ones. Later today, George. Boots. You want movement speed, life, and resists. Again, life regeneration is a nice bonus. Sure would love some 30% movement speed boots, but again, poor. Let's see. Weapon. Again, only important thing here is the plus to levels. This can go up to +7. Your weapon, though, is very dependent on how much strength you have. And I just haven't gotten around to upgrading mine yet. I will soon, at least get a +6, if not a +7. You have to have 3 times the strength requirement. Here it's 65 strength for this guy. Now there's ways to lower the strength requirement using the runes, and I corrupted this to get 3 runes. I got lucky. But if you don't hit the strength requirement, you can't use it, and because we're using Giant's Blood, you need 3 times the strength. So, speaking of Giant's Blood, let's look at the passive skill tree. So, Ascendancy is going to be this guy. I think it's Warbringer. I can't even remember what the heck the name of the Ascendancy is. That's horrible. But the first Ascendancy you're going to take is Anvil's Weight to let your totems break armor. And once they do that, your DPS is going to already start skyrocketing. Then once you move up to Imploding Impacts, I didn't do this. I didn't go to this when I was leveling. This was my last Ascendancy I took, and I regret it, because once you get this, your DPS is just off the charts. And this really helps. This would have helped a lot when I got around to my 4th Ascendancy, fighting that boss. That said, I went the other route, which is, this is where you get a lot of defense from. This is all offense, this is all defense. And maybe you just don't take this until you're fighting a really big boss and you need it. So you just re-spec into it, spec out of this and spec into this. It's really up to you. But the first Ascendancy here, I took this as my 2nd Ascendancy, where you get Ancestral Spirits. Every time you summon a totem, you'll get one of these blue guys that pops up. Here's a turtle, here's a guy blowing on a horn. These guys are basically damage absorbers, so they'll taunt your enemies and soak up some damage, but also I use them to inflict different types of ailments on the enemies, like maim, blind, and coal. So they're very, very useful support items, I guess, characters, whatever you would call them, minions. I think they're minions technically. And then I took this one, which is just, now you got 20% less damage taken. So that's very massive defensively, very, very big. It also helps a lot with physical damage, so it makes your armor more impactful, because now your armor is more effective, because you're now taking 80% of a hit instead of 100% of a hit. It's a smaller hit. The tree. So the way I leveled this was I went basically just straight down, took this one, I went down this way, took this, went this way, took these, and I went straight down here and took extra totem. Actually, I took extra totem, and then I took Giant's Blood. And then I came over here, took another totem, and then you're going to want to work your way all the way up here to Blood Magic, because at some point, the mana cost becomes ridiculously high for this build. So you definitely need Blood Magic. As far as the tree and what we're focusing on, life regeneration. Okay, you want lots of life regeneration. You get life regeneration here, you get life regeneration here, life regeneration over here, and crit damage reduction here. So this is actually a really huge little section over here. Life regeneration, a little life recoup, and that's it for the life regeneration sections. Down here you get, this is kind of the last thing I went into, was the max resistances, so you don't want to do that until very end game, basically. And then offensively, more totems, this is totem damage, more totems. Attack speed is huge, because these totems are not spells, they're attacks. So I might spec out of this attack speed eventually. Right now I just need it for the dexterity requirements. Not sure though where I'm going to put it. I really like the attack speed. And then this over here is an AoE cluster. AoE is very, very big for the totems. Getting that AoE is nice. Totem placement speed is actually surprisingly important, but this is enough totem placement speed, and it gives you attack speed, so it's a very good, this is a nice little cluster to take as well. But this is pretty much what you're going to want for the tree. Skills. Skills are very simple. You've got your Ancestral Spirits, where you've got Culling Strike, Blind, Encumbrance, and Maim. So Maim slows them by 30%, and Encumbrance slows them further. Probably for my last link here, I'll put in some kind of AoE support, just because every single one of these guys gives a huge aura that buffs you if you stand in it. I used to use Earth Shatter, I don't anymore. I just recently replaced it with a tech I created using Orb of Storms, because I wanted a font that was fast to cast, and Earth Shatter is surprisingly very slow. I'll get into this in a second. Overwhelming Presence. A lot of our defense is from stunning. We stun like crazy. We have tons and tons of stuns. Things are constantly being stunned. So we use Overwhelming Presence to reduce their stun threshold even further. And I put Cannibalism in there just as I have the Spirit and I wanted the extra life recovery. Why not? I'm not even sure that actually. I'm not even sure that works because I don't know if it's considered. It just says on kill, so I don't know if it's when you kill or when the totems kills. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I haven't researched that much. Shield charge is on weapon swap, so you can see for weapon swap you put it in slot 2, not slot 1. Everything else is in slot 1. So whenever I click this button, I can get a nice little boost. There's probably a few better supports I could put in there. Right now I just have it with stun threshold and making a video for you right now. Stun threshold and cooldown recovery just so I can do it more often. Shockwave Totem. Gosh, I wish I had a 6th link here. There's so many great things you could put in there. Heft, more physical damage. Martial tempo, attacks faster. Whatever this one is, I can't see it because I got a thing pinned up here in a way. I think that's brutality and heavy swing for more melee. And I will say, so that my damage number is deceptive when you compare it against other builds that are doing totems, because I am using not 2, sorry, weapon swap there. I'm not using 2 +7s, right? I don't even have a +7 yet. But what I'm using is this guy to double my damage and this guy to boost my damage. A +7 costs a bloody fortune, and it's about a break even damage-wise. 2 +7s will be slightly more damage. I believe I did the math, and it's about 5 to 10% more damage than hrymnors and a mace. But I still think that hrymnors is better because it hits more often. And hitting more often is better for clearing, and it's better for bossing because bosses move. And if the one pop misses, then you missed all the damage. But if at least half the pops hit, now you got some of the damage. So the fact that it attacks faster, I think, is just better. Plus, if you end up going crit, again, attacking more often is more important than attacking big. So, in my opinion, this is the better approach, plus the way cheaper approach. Yes, you could go to double +7s for a slightly better damage boost, but in my opinion, this is better. But this number is going to be deceptive. Just play it and you'll feel the difference, though. Time of Need, this is here to give you tons and tons of extra recovery, and of course it removes curses and ailments, so that's not bad. You don't want to have to wait, though, every 10 seconds or whatever, whatever level you're at, to pop off again, so you definitely put less duration on there. And of course Vitality, because more regeneration. And then the final tech that I was talking about earlier and throughout the video that I literally just came up with last night is using Orb of Storms. And again, I need to get at least a 4th link on this. That shouldn't be too expensive. I just came up with this last night. I would like to put probably the other AoE one in there, the one that gives you a cooldown. But this gives me Font of Rage, which gives me 2 rage every second or something like that, or rage every second. I don't know. As long as I'm inside of the Orb of Storms. And it gives me Magnified Effect, so more area effect, otherwise it's tiny. And it gives me Font of Blood, so an extra 2% life regeneration. So even for the life regeneration, you can see I start at 546 life regen. I pop a couple of totems down, I go to 610. Now I pop my font, and now I'm at 738. And that is a massive amount of life regen. So not only does it give you offense, it gives you tons of defense as well. Let's see, is there anything else I am forgetting to talk about? No, probably not. Here's a close-up of my guy. Here's a couple Orb of Storms and a couple of totems. Hope you enjoyed the build. It's fun. It's cheap to get going. Very survivable. Very fun. It reminds me of original POE playstyle, so enjoy.